Ronald Reagan can't find anything in his background to qualify him for office. How can he expect the rest of us to find it?
Do that?
Why not? They do it on TV.
Hey, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed of you. This is your brother. Look what you did to my face.
Lighten up.
What do you mean, lighten up? Look at me.
Lighten up. I'm not the only graffiti artist on television. Just the best. Little thing there. How's that look?
Like mother.
Here's your ears. Here's your other ear. There's your horns.
Yes. My horns are bigger than that.
Bill Roy is trying to make Senator Bob Dole look bad. He's passing out a brochure that says Bob Dole is against Social Security increases. Bill Roy, come off it. Since going to the Senate, Bob Dole has voted for every Social Security increase signed into law. He's been a leader in support of the elderly. The truth is, the more you know about Senator Bob Dole, the better he looks.
Who is your choice to be a heartbeat away from the presidency?
Back in the good old days, they didn't sling mud on posters. They slung it on the people. The candidate would stand on a tree stump, make a speech, and sometimes opponents would send goons to sling mud on them and break up the rally.
I don't see any referee over there.
That's because there isn't one. That's very observant, Tom. You see, in this ring, candidates are free to say and do almost anything. There is no established procedure for verifying the content of a political commercial.
Whatever happened to truth in advertising?
It doesn't apply to political spots. I'm telling you, Tom. Look at that. It's a jungle out there.
Have you noticed how the Lansing Zoo, otherwise known as the Democratic State Legislature, is such a sleepy place? Maybe that's why it took them 13 months to lower the tolerance levels on PBB, and 4 years to pass plant rehabilitation to save Michigan jobs. On the energy crisis, the Democratic legislature just couldn't quite summon the energy to do anything. Maybe they need a good long rest. It looks like it.
2 years ago, we trusted the Republicans to mind the store in Washington. They promised us they'd bring prosperity and respect America's heritage of fairness. Instead, they're crushing the hopes of our elderly, of workers, small business, farmers, and a generation's dreams. The Republicans have made a mess of things. Now they want to throw their weight around our state. Only one thing stands between them and us, the Democrats.
A heartfelt political endorsement.
I'm Henry Hudson, not the explorer, the dog. When I got shot one night down by the docks, my life was saved by the mayor, Tommy Smith.
Hear about those city slickers out here, bad-mouthing Doc Melcher?
One of them was stepping in what they've been trying to sell. He kept calling me a steer.
That'll all come as some surprise to Junie there.
You, sir, how do you feel about Governor Rockefeller's Pure Waters program?
His pure what?
Pure Waters.
Oh, yeah.
The Lansing Zoo, otherwise known as the Democratic State Legislature. It's a friendly place. They take care of each other in fine style. They feathered their nest with a $3.5 million new office building just for Democrats and their staff. And they've increased their staff an average of 166% per legislator, all in just the last 7 years. Maybe it's time we pick them clean for a change. After all, when we want something, like property tax relief, they're not quite so friendly.
Indecision can be fatal in politics. The voters want someone at the controls who won't freeze up at having to make an instant, tough decision.
Yep, that's it. I'd never vote for someone who couldn't make up their mind.
That's what I
They're
mean.
wishy-washy.
Shouldn't be
But then
that.
on the other hand, sometimes wishy-washy is not necessary. Well, wishy-washy people in certain
Just
times...
make up your mind. So you're a perfect example of what I just said. Playing on your opponent's changing attitudes could make them appear weak and unfit for office.
I know exactly where I stand. On one side, but on the other side, I'm not quite sure.
When somebody tells you he's for Barry Goldwater, you ask him which Barry Goldwater he's for. Is he for the one who said, we must make the fullest possible use of the United Nations? Or is he for the one who said, the United States no longer has a place in the UN? Is he for the Barry who said, I've never advocated the use of nuclear weapons anywhere in the world? Or is he for the one who said, I'd drop a low-yield atomic bomb on the Chinese supply lines in North Vietnam? Is he for the Barry who said, I seek the support of no extremist? Or is he for the one who said, extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice? And how is a Republican supposed to indicate on his ballot which Barry he's voting for? There's only one Lyndon Johnson.
Tennesseans speak their minds and stick to their guns. But as senator, all Jim Sasser has done is flip-flop. He promised to vote against Senate salary increases. Then 29 days after taking office, he voted for the biggest pay raise in history. On votes to balance the budget, he voted no 11 times. 3 times yes. On spending taxpayers' money for abortion, 29 times he voted yes. 6 times no. When it comes to making up his mind, flipping Jimmy Sasser is a flop.
And of course, the ultimate flip-flop involves the case of Russie Wilders.
I used to work here, along with a lot of other people. Nearly a year ago, they closed the plant for good. I'm one of the millions of people in this country who have lost their jobs, and we've got something to say to the Democrats. You've been running Congress, you've been running the economy, so we've got just one question. If the Democrats are good for working people, how come so many people aren't working?
Let's get America working again. Vote Republican for a change.
2 years later, Russie made this spot.
Remember me? In 1980, the Republicans paid me to go on television because they promised us they would make things better, and I believed them. Well, since they've been in control, unemployment is the highest since the Great Depression, and businesses are closing down every day. Millions of Americans are without jobs, and we've got to do something. I'm a Democrat, but I voted Republican once. It's a mistake I'll never make again, and I didn't get paid to say that.
Back in 1952, the Democrats spent a grand total of $77,000 on broadcasting messages for Stevenson.
By the 1964 election, the Democrats were spending $4.5 million to finance broadcast advertising. And it's been growing by leaps and bounds ever since. Yet for all the money spent, the style of these spots remains pretty much the same.
When Senator Joseph McCarthy was leading the anti-communist vendetta, he used many different tactics against his victims, and one of them is still in vogue today.
Guilt by association.
This is a photograph of Governor Pat Brown. It is a pictorial forgery and is the admitted work of the Nixon organization. The picture has been deliberately doctored. In this Nixon pamphlet, Pat Brown and the CDC, the governor is shown purportedly applauding a statement that he supports admission of Red China to the UN, a position he has always, in fact, opposed. Here is the actual picture. As you can see, the governor was applauding a 12-year-old polio victim standing beside him in braces and on crutches. Another photo hoax appears in this pamphlet, California Dynasty of Communism, which has been circulated by Nixon workers. Here you see the governor apparently bowing subserviently to Nikita Khrushchev, pictured opposite. Now, where did they get this picture? It was cut out of a news photo of Governor and Mrs. Brown greeting a Laotian minstrel girl on an officially sponsored goodwill mission. Another case of deliberate doctoring. Repudiate these dishonest attacks on the Democratic Party and your leaders, and re-elect Pat Brown.
In 1976, Jimmy Carter said, "Why not the best? Let's look at what he gave us." Andrew Young, Carter's UN ambassador, who called Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini a saint, forced to resign after lying to the president. Burt Lance, also forced to resign. Dr. Peter Bourne, the Carter drug expert, forced to resign after supplying drugs to a White House staffer. And the list goes on. If you want a president whose judgment you can trust for a change, then vote for Ronald Reagan for president.
Let's look at the record of Lyndon Johnson. He was Bobby Baker's best friend. LBJ once said, "Bobby Baker is my strong right arm, the last man I see at night and the first one in the morning." Billy Sol Estes and his connections in high places. A television monopoly forced on the people of Austin. A $14 million personal fortune gained on an average government salary of $14,000 a year. Honestly, it just doesn't add up.
Gee, Dad, is all that true?
Yes, son, every bit of it.
Will you and Mother vote for a man like that?
We won't. We can't, for your sake.
I want to tell you something else. You know, I'm running against an actor. Remember this. You know who shot Abraham Lincoln, don't you?
Those guys get a lot of punches below the belt. I don't actually know if I could stand that kind of punishment.
Then don't run for office.
You mean? You mean you make a spot to use against me, your own brother?
You bet. You know, celebrities are always being asked to endorse or speak against the candidate. You know that.
Yeah, but against your own flesh and blood. I mean,
It would be for the good of the country.
good. Go ahead and bury me.
Star spots.
Courage, endurance, leadership. John F. Kennedy has them all the way, and the way has been the hard way. As president, John F. Kennedy will have the courage to meet the greatest challenge our country has ever faced.
There is an alternative. Vote for Jesse Jackson. Come alive, June 5. Vote for Jesse Jackson.
I want to make it very clear, Harry, that on this question of equality of opportunity for all Americans, whether it's in the field of civil rights, better minimum wages, better housing, better working conditions, jobs, I stand for these things.
I'm voting for this, Senator. How about you?
Let's get a real leader and not a power politician in the White House. Vote for Barry Goldwater.
¿Por qué no me acompañan y voten por Presidente Ford? I urge you to vote for Ronald Reagan November 8th.
Pat Paulsen for president.
Remember Raymond Massey as Abraham Lincoln in the movie and as Dr. Gillespie on TV's Dr. Kildare?
He was the ultimate authority figure. He was even a little scary sometimes.
Right. He used all that authority very effectively in 1964.
I'm Raymond Massey, and this is what really gets me. This is a picture of a dead American soldier shot by the Viet Cong guerrilla in Vietnam. What's our government doing about it? And the 275 other dead Americans? Nothing, not a thing, because we are fighting a no-win war in Vietnam, a war we don't want to win. Well, as an American, I don't like it. I don't like our policy, and I don't like no-win wars, especially wars our men are getting butchered in. Don't you want to stop this war? Don't you care about what's happening over there? Well, I care a lot. That's why I'm voting for Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater doesn't want to fight wars. Barry Goldwater wants to put a stop to that mess in Vietnam. That mess that's killing our men. That mess that's costing us $1 million a day. I'm going to vote for Barry Goldwater, and I urge you to do the same. Vote for a real American. Vote for Barry Goldwater. In your heart, you know he's right.
Back in 1933, another movie star made a pitch for FDR's recovery program. Only this one wasn't a flesh and blood star. His name was Oswald Rabbit. It was 50 years ago. FDR was president as the Great Depression had the world by the throat. The country was scared. Bread lines, massive unemployment, banks collapsed, fear gripped the nation. FDR said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Doctor! 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 Doctor!
There's your doctor.
Mr. President, what will cure a depression?
Confidence! And lick this old depression. Confidence! And wear the right expression. Smile, grin, laugh right out loud. And watch the golden sunshine scatter every cloud. Confidence! Hey, hey! It's our salvation. Confidence! The hope of our great nation. Teach it, preach it, shout it, shout it. Confidence! Just have confidence.
What a great spot. And it illustrates another important advertising technique.
What's that, Tommy?
Well, always try to provide a simple answer to a tough problem and reinforce it with stereotypes everyone will understand.
You know, that's right. I'm very impressed by your knowledge of these advertising techniques. You know, you're not as dumb as I thought.
Maybe I ain't that smart, but when Judge Hollenbach tells me he cut my taxes,
he don't credit me with as much horse sense as Nell has. And since he's been judged, the taxes of my house are nearly 50% higher. Who does he think he's kidding? Maybe Judge Hollenbach should have my job. Was it my business? I deal with that kind of stuff every day.
It's election time, all right. But you know, Bob Dole's out working for Kansas every day, and I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Hank Donvillo, Democratic candidate for Congress in the 9th District. I'd like to be out now meeting all of you personally, but as you can see, I'm busy farming full-time, harvesting this year's crop of apples. But I can promise you one thing, if elected congressman, I'll be a full-time congressman. That's the way I do things. I go all the way. Meet my pickers from 1966, and particularly my orchard foreman who's been with me since 1952, Charlie Koviak. Next, Howard Lindstrom, who planted the orchard and is helping us manage this year's crop. Next, Ray Bath, who is the man that keeps our machinery in order. Next, Stan Sale, who is my second in command and takes care of the place when I'm gone. Let's give a cheer for these United States of America. Hip, hip. Hooray!
Everywhere you look these days, the federal government is there, telling you what they think, telling you what they think you ought to think, telling you how you ought to do things, setting up rules you can't follow. I think the federal government is going too far. Now they say, if you don't take the portable facility along with you on a roundup, you can't go.
Vote Stevenson, vote.
Made them seem too risky to beam into people's living rooms.
We represent the majority of the people in Alabama who hate niggerism, Catholicism, Judaism, and all the isms of the whole world. So said Robert Creel of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan. He also said, I like Barry Goldwater. He needs our help. Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd.
Does a president know that planes bomb children?
Never get in this booth. Let's see here. Wallace, General LeMay.
Boy, some of those spots are really in with a bang, huh?
Yeah. Probably the most frequently used motif in political commercials plays on the fear of the atomic bomb. Candidates use this fear either to make themselves look responsible or, more often, to make their opponents look dangerous.
This particular phone only rings in a serious crisis. Keep it in the hands of a man who's proven himself responsible.
3, 2, 1, 0.
On October 24th, 1963, Barry Goldwater said it's a nuclear bomb. Merely another weapon. Merely another weapon. Vote for President Johnson. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Now we've seen how candidates will promise anything before an election. But if we watch political commercials with a critical eye, we could keep them from putting things over on us.
And so the battle goes on in part 2 of, and if I'm elected, with another 10 rounds of fascinating political advertising. Here's just a sample.
Holy, breaking and entering. It's Batgirl.
Quick, Batgirl. Untie us before it's too late.
It's already too late. I've worked for you a long time, and I'm paid less than Robin.
Holy discontent.
Holy clock on the wall, Dick. We gotta go.
I'm Dick Smothers. And I'm Tom Smothers.
The man with leadership. The Nixon is for you. A governor to be proud of. Richard Nixon is for you. Courage to make decisions. Cool in crisis too. Experience. Integrity. Nixon is for you. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? But that's a doggone season that he won't try something new. A man who's old enough to know and young enough to do. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Why didn't you tell us you launched a nuclear attack on Moscow last night?
My own feeling was that we had enough news in the speech last night and we'd save some news for today.
Has recommended to us that the Bahamas...
La conférence des ministres des Affaires étrangères nous a recommandé de faire toutes les pays des îles de Bahamas.
Barbados, la Colombia e il Vanuatu siamo ammessi al movimento come membri effettivi. I Vanuatu are rimasti. Koriwa Soda Shite.